on YouTube, so that's something, I guess.
Yeah, we're live on Twitter as well.
Okay, that's cool. Just waiting for YouTube to catch up, but yeah. Yes, live on YouTube now.
Okay,
There we
we're
are.
live now.
Fantastic.
Cool. I don't know, give it a minute or something for people to hop in. But
Yeah.
Yeah, how are we all as we wait for people to join?
Oh, I'm doing great.
I was ready to wake up this morning for some spicy news. I've got a nice big bowl of chili, basically, with all of this going on. So
Yeah.
I'm ready and raring to go. Get some debate going. In actuality, the main reason I'm doing this is because I envision there's going to be some debating on this episode. And the Ocean Cyclone Show just released a podcast all about debating. So I'm going to not so subtly be plugging that throughout the
God,
episode.
you're just here for the plugs, eh? I didn't know that.
Hey,
You
I
know
got to
what?
stretch
That's
Joshi into this somehow. We know AEW ain't doing it.
Yes. Oh, yep, they're awake. My friend that is. I just saw them like one of my posts.
I was not expecting this to come out today, though.
I wasn't either. I felt like if it wasn't, I thought I was under the impression that if he came back after what happened before, that like he was just gonna wiggle his way through. Like I had no hope that there would be any kind of like consequences or anything like that resulting from this particular situation. And it does really just seem like, you know, he was on his last strike. You know what I mean? Like you have to get through the whole pay-per-view without starting a physical confrontation, and he did not manage to do that.
I don't know. We've discussed this to kind of death. I didn't know if there was anything that CM Punk could do that would actually catalyze this decision because, well, we know how bad Brawl Out was, and Tony let it go regardless. He has banned several people from appearing at Collision, including the fucking head of talent relations, by the way, on Collision, and he felt comfortable enough to shout at his employer directly after assaulting his colleague the other day. I didn't
Yeah.
actually think that there was anything that CM Punk could do that would get him fired, but according to Meltzer, I don't know if any of you have read this week's Observer, but there was an impartial non-wrestler person who gave a statement to the investigation, and it was their statement that basically gave
He
Mega her time
lunged
to
at
shine.
Tony, right?
Yeah, he lunged at Tony, and
That's
people had to hold him
crazy.
back.
That's crazy.
That's fucking wild.
I mean, it really does. I mean, Fusa, every day is a great day to wear a Young Bucks shirt, so thank you. Yes. I mean, it really did to me give a vibe of like Punk was a leopard who ate other people's face. And Tony was surprised when all of the sudden he turned around and tried to eat his face. Is a little bit what it felt like. Just with the pattern of behavior that we have seen on display over the past year.
Yeah.
But like, you know, we were talking about this a little bit before we started the stream. Like, I am not sad about this at all. I personally think it's funny, although I know that that's pretty callous. Sorry, Jamie. But I did my mourning for CM Punk a long time ago.
I did it after All Out.
Yeah, for me it was earlier than that, but I think for me it was actually that quote unquote receipt promo on Dynamite. Like I really did not like that at all. It really turned me off him. I was kind of just like fully out. And when Mox kind of cut that promo where he was like, I'm so sorry that he did not turn out to be the guy you wanted him to be. Like that's how I felt, because I was really behind him when he first came back, and I really liked him, and he made me like feel a lot of feelings, and watching that debut was just like so like beautiful and like those emotions, and you know, I really wanted him to be that guy, but it became clear to me a long time ago that he wasn't. And like all of this has just been like painfully dragging that out.
Yeah, I think that kind of mirrors my sentiments. The thing after Brawl Out, when he came back and he did that shot at Hangman on Dynamite, we knew that there was not going to be an end to this until either the Elite or Punk had left AEW. And regardless of your feelings for CM Punk, the best outcome would have been CM Punk leaving, because like the Elite are the fucking E of AEW. But it was just that moment where I was like, no, right, okay, he's done. He just doesn't know it yet, and none of his fans seem to either. And it was just a shame, because when he debuted on Rampage, that was actually one of the best moments that I've ever experienced in wrestling. Like, that was I don't think there's actually been a better debut in wrestling. It was just perfect. And you could see how much it meant to CM Punk. You could see how much it meant to the fans in attendance, and you could certainly see how much it meant to people on Twitter, because CM Punk means a lot to a lot of wrestling fans. So to see his descent in AEW, it's actually been really sad. Yeah. Like, jokes aside, like, it's obviously, you can obviously take the piss, but it has actually been quite sad.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of all just been a massive shame. It's sort of like maybe one of the biggest, even though he's done so much great work in AEW in the ring and with promos and that sort of thing, maybe it's still a really big missed opportunity that it could have been so much more, his big return. And the fact that it's sort of like, it's not even petered out. I mean, he had a fantastic match at All In, like probably one of my favourite matches of that show. And that's just like it. It's really like unsatisfying in a way. This sort of like, but maybe that's like the CM Punk way, isn't it? He's won. So he had that one last match. He didn't know it was going to be his last match, and then it was in AW. So, I mean, he might be back next month anyway. Who knows with Tony Khan? But it seems more final than anything has been up to this point, and maybe his race has been run in AW.
In many ways, they got the best of both worlds, because they got the return Punk. If anyone wanted to get CM Punk, it was that moment at Rampage when he came through and everyone went wild. No matter what happens, whether he goes back to WWE, whether he goes to Impact or New Japan or starts his own promotion, joins NWA, AEW got that moment. And everything after that might have been up and down, whether it was worth it in the long run to keep them as long as they did. That moment is going to go down in AEW history, and it's the AEW product that benefits from that. They got all the attention. They got the people like myself who weren't following but were curious because they were Punk fans coming through and sort of say, okay, what are they doing? Let's properly give them that chance. And that's something that may be worth all the drama they had. Whether it got executed to the best of its abilities, that moment gave them so much leverage to work with.
I have to disagree with that, to be honest. Like, I'm sorry, but as somebody who has been watching AEW regularly and participating in, you know, AEW like fan stuff online, and has been really engaged with it from the beginning and has been really engaged with it all through this time, I actually do think that the damage that CM Punk has done to wrestling as a culture, not even just like AEW and AEW fans, is really profound. Because I think that he spent a lot of his time using media and fans as his proxies to fight his battles for him.
Yeah.
And so now there are a lot of Punk soldiers running around who are just saying the most absurd nonsense and like peddling the most detached from reality stuff like in this space, and we're not talking about wrestling and we're not engaging with something that we love. It's like a battle, and it's people who are being cruel about other wrestlers, and it's people who, in order to defend their guy, are also defending principles that are like really gross and dangerous and damaging to wrestling. So things like violence is a good way to settle beef, right? And that, it's a good thing to threaten somebody physically if you feel that they've been disrespectful to you, even if they have not been violent. Like this idea that like soft, like this whole debate over like soft, right? Because like Punk fans or like people like me who have not been a fan of Punk this whole time have kind of had fun like joking about literally the softest man alive, right? Because he cut that promo. But then like I keep seeing like these comments from these guys who are like, he's not soft, he's beating up all the wrestlers he has problems with. And it's so gross. And it's a continuation of the stuff that like makes the space so hostile, particularly to women, particularly to queer people. And like it sucks really, really, really bad. And it sucks to be a part of. So I actually don't agree that, his nice return pop was worth all of that. I think if we had nipped this on the bud right after Brawl Out, I think if it had been clear that he had started that fight and they were like, you can't start fights and violent altercations if you can't work with people, if you can't behave yourself backstage, like you're not going to get your own special little place. Maybe it would have been worth it. But this whole year has been hellacious. It sucked really bad.
Yeah, it was the insidious manner in which he was doing it as well. Like, I mean, we all know that CM Punk had his hand up Dax's arse to control his mouth when he had that podcast going. And that division that they were trying to foster between AEW fans who like CM Punk and AEW fans who like the Elite was continued further when Collision started, and he was trying to popularize, like colliders versus Dynamite people, and that's a fracture that's probably not going to be healed for a long time. And you can tell it. You can tell that with the way that the ratings are going, right? Like people that watch Dynamite are not tuning in to watch Collision because there is that barrier to entry there. And I don't know, it's a bad time for Tony Khan because he's got that contract renewal coming up with Warner Brothers, and if there isn't a resolution to that divide anytime soon, Collision's going to look weaker now.
Well, I feel like there almost has to be that resolution because, Punk was there. He was kind of the figurehead of the Collision movement. You remove the head of that, even if you've got guys who are still pro-Punk in the locker room and backing them, they've lost their leader. And I can't see like an FTR standing up and suddenly being able to lead Collision by themselves. It's probably going to be guys like Jay White and Juice Robinson who might have been, I don't know if they're pro-Punk or more like, hey, they're giving us opportunities to shine on Collision, but I don't see them sowing that same discord. I think it will probably come back together. Yes, the damage has been done. It will require a little bit of creative rebranding from Tony Khan because of that apparent discord between the two sort of groups. But that's just going to kind of happen naturally, and they're not going to hold on to pro-Punk people now that Punk's gone if they're causing that same issue. The leash was let out with Punk, and now that they've pulled that off, those same guys don't have the same. They're not the top merchandise movers that CM Punk was, so the same value just isn't there to try and placate everyone.
Well, the thing is that the only reason there was that split was because Punk had the problem with people. Like this whole idea of like, like the colliders as an identity is not a thing that was a thing backstage except for Punk. FTR right now are teaming with the Young Bucks. They're working with the Young Bucks for the second week in a row. I think they've made it really clear that they're not intending to to increase and enhance the sorts of divisions backstage that Punk was doing because he refused to get along with people. For me, when I'm talking about the damage, I'm talking about the damage to the fan culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is not going to be healed so easily. And like, it's really gross to see some of the comments that people are making in order to like twist themselves into knots to like make, particularly the Bucks. I don't know why the Bucks are a particular focus of derangement in this scenario, but like say really gross, like really awful stuff to people all of the time and start wild conspiracy theories about the Bucks keeping everybody down, and ooh, haven't you noticed that everybody who CM Punk is has a problem with is a friend of the Bucks, which is like, yeah, they started the company, everybody's friends with the Bucks. I don't know what you're talking about. So it's just like that divide in fan culture existing in this post-Punk meltdown fan culture, like being somebody who has participated in AEW fan culture before and after this, like it is worse now. It wasn't great before, but it is worse now. And just being able, like, I think they'll be able to heal and fix like the different shows perfectly fine, because there was only one guy who was keeping people off of Collision. There was only one guy who was like, fostering that division. The shows will be able to recover. The fan culture is going to take longer too, I think.
It will take a really long time.
A little bit that there is obviously like two sides to every coin, isn't there? In that obviously CM Punk has done some of the damage himself, but he's not the only person who has stoked that fire in a way with the division between Dynamite and Collision and all that sort of thing with the Young Bucks, and not just the Young Bucks, but like the Elite like the Elite faction and everything. And I think I agree with what Connor said there that's on screen. He's a big CM Punk fan, but has to admit that he's had to go. And that sort of seems to be where we are now, isn't it? It's that we got to the point where there was no other real solution other than CM Punk just to leave AEW, which is for me is a real shame, isn't it? Because I'm obviously a CM Punk fan with his work in the ring. I don't care too much about like everything else. Like not the obviously what he did with Jungle Boy at All In. That's obviously totally unacceptable. That's obviously come to light what exactly has happened. That shouldn't have happened. He obviously is seek the consequences for that. But I think his impact in a positive sense of like the product has improved slightly with his in-ring work and just his presence, like Trent was saying earlier, just that he's a massive star, and that it's impossible to replace someone like that, and it will have a dent, maybe not just on Collision, but just in AEW viewership and fandom as a whole. As CM Punk fans could sort of dip out of the promotion if they've got nothing left to hang on to.
I'm kind of okay if CM Punk fans dip out of the promotion. I mean, like, I'm sorry. Like,
okay, bye, Jamie.
No.
He's gone now. Yeah, he's gone. He's the CM Punk fan. He's out of there.
That's not what I meant.
Alex is wearing a CM Punk shirt, so you're gone as well. And now that they're gone, we can just sit down and we can have a good conversation.
That is not.
We can't do that joke twice. I did that leave and come back once. It's not. It can't be
that
overdone.
Was funny. That was good. No, I mean, like, what I'm saying is that, like, if the only reason that somebody was watching AEW was to watch CM Punk, I am not certain that that the show is for them. Because like if somebody is coming in to AEW to watch CM Punk and wants to watch only matches that are like CM Punk's or in a line with his own principles, like those are not the foundational principles that AEW was built on. I actually kind of protest.
I actually
kind of protest the sort of both sides framing of like the Elite having a part in sewing division, because I actually truly believe that that's not true. I don't think that they never left Collision out of their shout outs of the show. They never participated in the sort of kind of like back and forth that was happening between like Punk proxies and whatever. They kind of did their own thing and stayed in their own lane. And I don't really think that there's a real example of them like trying to sow this division like between Collision and Dynamite, because I truly believe that they don't want that kind of division. Like, I don't think that they believe that it's a good way to like garner interest and excitement.
Why would they want Collision to fail? They created AEW with Tony Khan. Collision failing devalues AEW.
Right, they don't want that.
Like they've got a contract renewal coming up. If Collision fails, it stagnates their growth because they would be perceived by Warner Brothers as a lower value commodity. Like,
I think if Collision this whole time, first of all, was not bogged down by all of this drama, and second of all, like this whole time was kind of working in concert with Dynamite and like storylines on Dynamite were setting up, you know, segments on Collision, and like everything was like really back and forth in a really back and forth flow like that, Collision would be in a lot stronger place than, I mean, we even have a little bit of proof of that, like when Better Than You Baby went on Collision, and it was like the second highest rating that the show ever put out. Yeah. I do not buy this Punk is such a huge draw argument. I truly do not. It's a narrative, and I understand why people say it, but I'm not seeing the evidence that he was such a huge like draw that AEW will be terribly damaged by his absence. I'm not seeing it.
I don't think they're going to be terribly damaged by him going now. I meant more like when he first came in. That was the kind of pop you wanted to bring in the people who are on the edge. And that's what I mean now is you've got that. You've got the people who are curious about Punk. They've come and they've now watched your product. If they stay, if they've become a fan of the rest of AEW, fantastic. If they were pure punkers and they're going, then it's not for them anymore. That's sort of what I was more speaking about when I was talking about like the value of having him initially come in. Someone like myself who, even though I knew the Bucks, I knew Kenny Omega and the guys who were coming through their New Japan connections, that didn't necessarily get me to watch AEW because I'm not anti-American wrestling, but I'm naturally going to be a little bit predisposed to being wary of it. Punk was the person who actually got me to watch my first AEW episode. Did I keep watching it? No, but that wasn't because Punk's no longer there now. That's just because it got me in, gave me a chance. There are people like myself who gave him a chance because of Punk and are now watching weekly and in theory have become a fan of everything else, because I do agree, like, some of the pure Punk fans did spread that ugly discourse that you don't want to see. But there were plenty of Punk fans who maybe came in and weren't that way and are, sticking with AEW because they like that the product is with or without Punk.
I think it's difficult to gauge, really. Like, it's inarguable that the pay-per-views that CM Punk has been on have sold the best. Like,
he single-handedly sold out Wembley Stadium.
Oh, that would be Jay White.
Like, I'm just really glad you didn't say Adam Cole, because I will have actually left then.
Jay White, baby.
Do you not like Adam Cole, JB?
Not massively. I've not got a strong opinion on the bloke. He's very average.
We're just destined to be sworn enemies, I guess. Kidding.
You're just glad I wasn't on that All In review episode, because I absolutely hated that main event. It was like,
I loved it so much. I am, because I got to just gush all over it.
I almost left halfway through. I thought I'll stay in case anything happens at the end, but that was the only reason I stuck it out.
It did happen. The power of friendship happened, Jamie. What is better
and ended the show in exactly the same place?
Nothing.
And if CM Punk had been powered by the power of friendship rather than the power of hostility, he would maybe still be at AEW.
We would all be better off, to be honest.
Can you imagine, like, just a happy-go-lucky CM Punk just bringing in the Elite to the middle of the ring and doing, like, the best friends hug with the Okada zoom out and everything?
We got to see that. We got PG Punk.
Okada, CM Punk.
Like, this was CM Punk's whole deal. Like, when he returned, he was just... And it's why everyone believed that CM Punk had like actually changed, because when he came back, he was happy-go-lucky. He was well liked backstage. Everyone really liked being around him, and it became like a joke on the product, thanks to MJF, that like what we were seeing wasn't CM Punk, it was PG Punk, because he was so happy all the time. And I don't know, like that was what
It just
everyone
like
was
turned
hoping would
sour.
continue, but it didn't, because as
He would have had
many
to have
people
been
have seen, he can't help himself.
he would have had to have been a different person in order for that to happen. And yeah, and like, you know, as far as the whole merch numbers thing goes, I mean, to me, like, yeah, like merch is one aspect that's important, but it's like only one number. And so sure, he moves a lot of merch, but like he comes on Collision, and sure, it's not his fault that Collision isn't doing super hot, but like he's not really helping. And they sold out Wembley Stadium when Punk hadn't been announced as coming back yet. And like they sold out Forbidden Door when Punk hadn't been announced as coming back yet. And there are a lot of other people who are draws. And in fact, like I actually think that it's more important than just one guy being one draw. I think the thing about AEW, the appeal of AEW is like all of the people who somebody can connect to, and it's about the sum being greater than its parts. And if there are multiple people all working together, that is stronger than one guy who can't go a week without causing some incredible drama.
There was a period there where it was 2 weeks where there was no drama surrounding CM Punk. I've got to fight back there. In I think it was June of 2021.
When he was suspended, I think.
No, there weren't 2 weeks when he was suspended.
He was too busy on Instagram that way when he was suspended.
Connor, I'm not saying that he's not a draw at all. But I'm just saying that, like, I don't think that he is as crazy a draw as people have been framing him as. Like, yeah, he's a draw, I think, on the level of some of AEW's other top guys. Like, that's what I think. You know, when you factor in things
he's like, easily top 3 draws in that company.
Sure, but
yeah,
you know, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze on that one. And I don't think like he is at a level, like he was such a difference maker that it really tipped the scales like a huge amount. Like when I talk to people about wrestling, because I'm always talking to people about wrestling, nobody knows who CM Punk is. I mean, outside of wrestling bubbles, none of these people know who CM Punk is.
I mean,
I have to describe him to them.
I'm not isn't the biggest draw in AEW. Like, I mean, he hasn't even been the biggest draw on his own show. Like
he has.
No, he hasn't. Like Better Than You Baby have been the bigger draw than
Better
CM
Than You
Punk.
Baby are provably a bigger draw than CM Punk on his own show.
Popped. Yes. They didn't just pop the rating; they were the highest drawing quarter of that TV show. And when they finished, the quarters began to drop again. He is like, while he will have always been among the top draws in the company, that is a transient. That is a transient situation. He is on a level that people need to aspire to in AEW, but he is not the bar, because there are people who constantly outdraw him, whether that's on Dynamite, whether that's in good or bad segments, it doesn't matter. I mean, fucking Riho is a draw. Like, she is amazing. Like, she is an incredible draw. Every single time she is on TV, she draws massive numbers. Like, you can't just say that CM Punk is the biggest draw in AEW, because it is actually not true. But it's also untrue to say that he's not a draw.
Yeah, I'd never say that he wasn't a draw.
No, I know you didn't say that. Like, but like his defenders will argue until they're blue in the face to say that he's AEW's biggest draw, but it is actually untrue. He is momentarily their biggest draw, and when he rejoined wrestling and signed for AEW, he was their biggest draw. But that hasn't been the case for a very long time. There are people that are far more over than him. I mean, like even if you want to build it on metrics, like Better Than You Baby sold out, outsold his year-long march in the space of 3 fucking weeks. So like
Yeah.
he is a draw, but he's not somebody that is worth the trouble that he has caused. He may have been initially, and I do agree with what you're saying. Like he would have created lifelong AEW fans by his presence as a consequence of people being interested in what there's in him coming back. But was he worth it after all out?
He had done so much damage to his brand at that point, is I think, like this past year, I think a lot of people have really underestimated how much his actions have really damaged his brand. And as far as who is the biggest draw in AEW, I think that's the wrong question. I think that focusing on that as a question, it's not useful. And it's not answerable, because the thing about being a draw in wrestling is it can so often be circumstantial. Like one thing gets super hot, or like a combination of people who work really well together start like really moving numbers, or people really start connecting to them, and like maybe that kind of starts getting stale, and like this other thing is new and people start connecting to that. I don't feel like there's really going to be one guy who can, like, I don't think it's a good idea even to just try to have one great man at the top of the company who is always going to draw the numbers. Like, I think wrestling is and always has been, and at its strongest always will be, a collaborative effort. So when we start talking about like who is this one guy who's the best, like I really don't think that helps anybody. It's like, how do we make the strongest show? How do we build the strongest connections with the audience? How do we have the most entertaining, matches and situations and all of that stuff? So
I would say, though, you do need those people who can kind of stand up, because the biggest wrestling booms have always kind of been centered around one, maybe two guys. You've got like the Hulk Hogan era, which, whether you like Hulk or not, he did lead that WWF era quite strongly. Then you had the WWF period with Stone Cold and The Rock kind of together leading that period. You've got New Japan, who had Hiroshi Tanahashi, and now you've got Okada kind of leading that foray. I do think you need to identify, and this is not so much us, because we're not the ones running AEW, but Tony Khan and the people booking do kind of need to realize, okay, whether Punk was our biggest draw or not, who are the people that we can kind of build this company around just to give them that push? Yes, the whole show needs to be strong. You need a little bit of every flavor to really get that going through. But I think wrestling has always benefited from having that one or two guys that are kind of at the forefront leading a company forward. It's just a matter of making sure that the things are in place, so that if for whatever reason they leave or get injured and can't be around, that the promotion doesn't fall with them.
It is also like a negative as well, because if you look at when WWE lost Roman Reigns, they were in a really bad state ratings wise. But also going back to like the Stone Cold and The Rock thing, when they were both out for long periods of time or whatever, they had Triple H, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. They had people that were colossal draws in of themselves. And but like while typically they were the biggest draws, like they were supported by a group of people who, given the right story, would draw as well as them. I think that it's been like New Japan have struggled with this, right? Because they really only have at the minute Okada, who draws on that level. He's basically their Cena at the moment.
And Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, Naito.
Yeah. Naito, yeah. But like,
and Hiroshi Tanahashi was still what are you on audience.
About? Yeah, when you
Hikuleo will be there next year, mate. Don't you worry.
When you put yourself into that position, you put yourself into a really precarious position, and I think that that's where AEW have kind of done really well. Actually, like they've always had this sort of like rotating top tier. Whether like the big guys have always been there, but like in their stories, they've managed to maintain somebody on that level regardless of whether it's one guy, and that's been a really big strength of theirs, because it means that when one person goes missing, the ratings don't drop, and that's actually been like great to see, because traditionally you've seen, like with WWE, John Cena or The Rock and Stone Cold, like you've had when they've been injured or they've left, it's left an absolute chasm that nobody could fill.
It's really interesting to me, because I haven't really been following, the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of professional wrestling all throughout my life. Wrestling, I kind of came to wrestling a little bit later. So the way that I engage with media and storytelling, I think I just is just a little bit different sometimes. But this idea that there has to be this one guy, that it's necessary in order for wrestling to be successful, strikes me a little bit as sort of it's just everybody saying it, so everybody's believing it. There's so much in wrestling, I feel like, as I have learned more about it and interacted with it more. There's so much stuff in it that people just kind of take as a given, as solid established fact, that I don't think is actual fact. I think so much of wrestling is presentation. If you believe it hard enough, it becomes true. And I think that that's a lot of stuff that's happened with wrestling, and I think that that's part of the one top draw is people have decided that this is the true thing, so everybody is doing the thing, and then when you look back, all of the successful companies did this one thing. But I also think that modern audiences are engaging with media differently. I think that with indie wrestling happening right now, most indie promotions, I think they don't have one guy that they're building their promotions around. And they'll bring other people who are big stars other places, and those will be pretty big draws for those individual shows, but that's not what they're building their promotion around, right? They're not building their promotion around one guy. They're building their promotion around a constellation of people who are really big, who really connect with the audience. And that's working really well for them right now on the indies. That's kind of title of my podcast on the Wrestle Network.
I think it's more, rather than it being one person, it's two or three. And I don't think it's ever really more than that. I mean, Trent brought up New Japan. You had your Three Musketeers, previously, Okada, Tanahashi, that Naito now, and it's they've always been two or three rather than just one singular person. And CM Punk was one of those two or three at the very top of AEW, and you would take him out of the situation, then there's a gap there to be filled. Trent's getting all the smooth plugs in, and I need to slide Pure Vision at some point, I think.
Well, I mean, you had the chance. We were talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I know. Yeah, I was, yeah. See, as you brought up New Japan, you could listen to the Pure Vision podcast.
There we go.
Yeah, but there's that's what I
we should probably also plug Ace Tekka, since that is the New Japan podcast on the Wrestling.
No, that's taken away our audience, that Trent. I mean, I know. Yeah, I think there's always two or three people is sort of where the sweet spot is, and it has been for years. In terms of building a company around a few people, and CM Punk has been one of those for AEW. Is in his Collision strand now, but even before then, he was one of the figureheads at every pay-per-view. He had a big singles match. He wasn't like Kenny Omega just having a trios match when he felt like it. He had a singles match at every pay-per-view that he was on.
That's shade on Kenny. I take exception to.
But that's what I mean. I was fishing a little bit there, but it was sort of that is in the way that.
Was that bait? Did I take the bait? I did take the bait. Yeah, I sure did.
The vacuum is there though, which is good, because if you've got a hungry locker room, maybe wanting to move forward from this CM Punk era, and I think regardless of which side of the fence they're on, I think everyone just wants to kind of move forward with this situation now. Yeah. That vacuum of one of the top guys no longer being there does need to be filled to a certain extent, whether they are going with
two or three filled, to be honest.
They've got loads of guys.
That's where the Hangman and the Kenny Omegas, that's when they can step in and really take the forefront again.
I mean, or it could be someone on the mid card.
I mean, yeah, they have Mox, Hangman, Omega, Danielson. I mean, Britt Baker's a draw when she's actually been there. Jericho. There's myriad people who can. Eddie Kingston is over as fuck. MJF, your favorite Adam Cole. These all pop ratings, and like I know that All In was like an outlier for their like their buys and stuff like that, probably because it was the biggest show ever. But CM Punk hasn't always been the headliner for big selling pay-per-views. AEW just has like a rotating like carousel of draws. I don't think they're going to miss CM Punk that much in terms of ratings.
But there's a chance for a mid-card wrestler to seize an opportunity because they would have been planning around Punk, and now that's gone. It will change up, plans and stuff. And that's the best thing for wrestling is when you have that hole that someone can come in and fill. Again, just to try and swing things into discourse that I know about, you just have to look at Stardom. Whenever they've had a couple of wrestlers go for whatever reason, whether it was Io Shirai Kairi, whether it was Arisa Hoshiki, Hana Kimura, and Kagetsu, there's been like 4 or 5 wrestlers who have just been chomping at the bit to now become that main event talent.
Yeah.
Whether AEW has that rotating carousel, there is still one carousel horse that now no longer has a CM Punk on it for someone to jump in and go, this is my time to make everyone suddenly feel like they need to care about me.
I think they've got quite a few guys like that. I mean, there's definitely the upper mid cards, like Starks, Eddie Kingston, and my now biggest hero in the world, Jack Perry.
He is my hero.
The legend killer, Jack Perry.
He took one for the team. He really did. Jack Perry did nothing wrong.
He did not.
He did not do anything wrong.
I don't know. I think that they've always been good at building people. Darby Allin, like
full send into Rush or Roosh. Sorry, full send into Roosh. Absolutely, 100,000%. Do it. Hit go. Let's go. Fucking love Roosh.
I'm so sad that we didn't get to see Roosh chopping CM Punk before he left.
Yeah. I don't think that this is over. I was about to say I'm so glad that it's over. I don't think that this is actually going to be over. There are going to be for a solid 6 months some incredible publicity stunts from Punk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I know it in my heart. I know it in my soul. The human brain is really excellent at identifying patterns. But it's nice that he's like out of here finally, because man,
it's draining, right? It's been draining. Like
it's been so draining.
You just want the best. Like, I mean, I don't really support companies. I try to support wrestlers, but the wrestling needs AEW to prosper, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
This whole clusterfuck has been going on now for over a year, and it's undermined Tony Khan as a boss and as or allegedly a boss. It's caused media PR problems for them, and it's caused divisions in the fan base. And it's good that we can now start to move on from that, and hopefully AEW can
this whole thing has colored my enjoyment of AEW so much in the past year, from having bought tickets to Arthur Ashe last year to bring my very good friend who I flew in from Australia, and I was so excited to show them Arthur Ashe, and it's this will be great, and we'll see all of our favorite guys live, and it'll be great, and they're just gone. They're just off.
Where's my ticket, MX? Flying people out from Australia, and here I am stuck down here.
No, I'm sorry.
Only for people that are interested in AEW.
You've got to
get you sent to Wembley next year,
it's
mate.
It's only for my fellow young buck stands. Sorry.
That's a good
I might
point,
have
right?
a wardrobe full of young buck shirts in there. You don't know. My door is
I don't know, but I also don't know that the sun will rise tomorrow. You know.
Well, now
probability is never.
The sky is falling.
That's a good point about CM Punk, though. This was Mega's time to shine. It absolutely was. CM Punk, we all know that he's a litigious bastard, and the second that he was threatening to quit you know that the cogs were going in his head, thinking, "How can I come out of this legally favorably?" And with all of the independent witnesses, CM Punk will not AEW would not have fired CM Punk if they were not in a strong position to do so. Like, he won't even get a settlement out of AEW for this.
Yeah. I will say, as far as negativity that we're feeling, I gotta say, I've been feeling extremely negative for the past year. This has been a really awful experience for me as a fan. And it's been very stressful as I was, waiting to see, like, I hate having to pay attention to contract negotiation bullshit. I hate having to pay attention to that. But like, that was just like such a huge part of my fan experience for this past year. And like, yeah, I will acknowledge that there was stuff about CM Punk that made me feel good at the time. Like that, like the CM Punk MJF feud, by the time we got to the dog collar match, was like so good. That match, it kind of like is one of the matches that broke containment from the wrestling bubble, right? A lot of other people were like brought into wrestling because of that match. And yeah, Connor, yeah, chill on some music. Like, I understand this being a bummer, and I'm really sorry that it's such a bummer, but definitely go do some stuff that makes you feel good. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm just not going to pretend. I'm just not going to ignore how awful this past year has been for me as a fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been keeping it in for a long time. I've been not talking about it more than you might think, considering how much I've talked shit on All Elite Listening. But like, there's a lot that I've really had to keep in, and I've really had to keep together, and I've like tried not to be super public about a lot of stuff, and it was very frustrating as a fan. And there were a lot of times that I had to take a step away, and I had to mute things, and I had to stop watching stuff for my own mental health, right? So I understand, for the Punk fans, that this is a really difficult moment, and like, I don't want to come across like I'm attacking Punk fans, people who really connect with him, people for whom like he's very meaningful for them, either through memories or stuff that they've seen recently. Like, that's kind of like not my point with all of this. But like, yeah, it all across the board, like, it feels bad, man. Like, it feels bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good situation. It's still not really.
Oh, I mean, there's memes, there's jokes, and like, it's good that we're kind of in the end game now, but no, it's not a good thing. Like, there's still division within the locker room. That's not going to end anytime soon, because someone has lost their job, and people will feel aggrieved about that, whether that is right or wrong. This is like not a good situation. Like, it's shit. But so has the last year been. So
I think sort of like the way there's obviously so many different opinions about it, and I'm sort of a little bit like on the outside of the AEW bubble. Like recently, like I've not watched much AEW for the past few months, just mainly more because of time than the fact that I've not wanted to. But sort of like with the stuff CM Punk's done since he came in, it's been a real highlight for me of AEW, and that's just sort of like my personal, like the sort of the wrestling I enjoy, and he's sort of been exactly that. And of the past year or so, I've really enjoyed his matches on the pay-per-views and the stories he's been putting together, and I think that's the thing. I can sort of like ignore that some of this like on. It's just constantly on Twitter, isn't it? It's like something's happened. I was like, I'm sort of a bit out of AEW, that side of it, so I'm like, I can just pass that by, and I know not everyone can do that. And then I can get to the matches, really have a great time watching his matches, and then like come around for the next one. And that's the thing I think I'll miss now with CM Punk not being in AEW, is the matches and just the way you can grab hold of you that I don't think other wrestlers can. Like a lot of the way he can talk and just the way he carries himself is such a unique commodity in that.
Like I
that
said
sort
on
of
the
regard.
server earlier, like he is a genuinely generational talent. There are very few people that can make. There are very few wrestlers, and there are like even like actors as well that can evoke what CM Punk evokes in fans. And when he came into AEW, everything that he did was compelling. Like that journey that we went through from Punk being not really being Punk, being like Phil Brooks, and like having to warm up and get back into talent, struggling against people like Bobby Fish because he wasn't like in match sharpness, and then gradually developing his confidence and like CM Punk re-emerging. That was a really compelling story. And then yeah, we went on the journey through MGF and everything. And like as an actual storyteller, there haven't been many better than CM Punk. Like he is an amazing wrestler. Like whether he's the best in between the ropes is kind of immaterial because the stories that he weaves are like top tier.
I
And
was
Punk kind of
enchanted.
benefited, I think, from not being picture perfect in the ring like a Bryan Danielson because it suited his character. Not every wrestler has to look like $1 million in like the technical side of things. He was a little bit kind of sloppy at times, a little bit out of control with his movements, but it worked to tell the story that they were telling. And that, combined with his storytelling and promo work, definitely kind of came together to create a compelling package that if this was anyone else, he would have been gone long, long ago. The fact that Tony tried to make this go for a year plus speaks to the talent that Punk had. It's just eventually it became too much even for this situation.
I
think the worst part of it all is that it's Jungle Boy that's like that's been the final straw, chuffing Jungle Boy out of everybody it could have been. It's bloody Jack Perry. Mr. 3-star wrestling match is like he's the straw that's broke the camel's back. I mean that's the bit I'm not quite over.
It is really incredible. I mean, because it was just like the smallest thing, right? It was just the teeniest little thing, just like a little cheeky little reference, a little cheeky little reference at the camera. It did not have to go down like that. All you had to do was simply not engage. So many of us day to day, in the workplace deal with people who are kind of dicks. Yes. And say something kind of dickish, and then you hear that and then you just kind of let it go because like as an adult you have to work with other human beings in this place. And I think at most that what Jack Perry did in this situation was like kind of dickish, and like all he had to do was not.
But like CM Punk did something so much worse 2 weeks ago when he spoke about the Hangman Page not selling as many action figures and stuff like that.
That was so embarrassing.
Like it was embarrassing for Punk and it was embarrassing for AEW, but Adam Page didn't give a fuck. And then all Perry did was say, "Cry me a river. This is real glass." And everyone had to restrain him because I don't know, like you dare use my spells against me, Potter, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, in the beginning, I found him just as enchanting as everybody else did. You know what I mean? Like I was riveted by his promos. Like I was glued to the screen. That I still describe that episode where AEW went to Long Island, and it was during the Punk MJF feud where they kind of twisted it so that MJF was babyface in Long Island. Like I still say that first 30 minutes of that show, that episode, are the most perfect 30 minutes of professional wrestling to ever exist. Like the way that it was set up, like it was so genius, like the way that everything was set up and the way that the audience was primed and like how it was all constructed and how it came together. And the collaboration between the performers and the audience to create this moment that was so goofy and so ridiculous but still really profound. Like that was perfect professional wrestling. And I will stand here. Jersey. I'll stand by that. Huh?
When he came out with that hockey jersey, man, like that was just peak CM Punk audience baiting. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. And like that's the great tragedy here, right? And I've been really salty because like it's my special little guys who were caught in the crossfire, right? Like I know that CM Punk is a lot of people's special little guy, and like on one level I really have a lot of empathy for it, but on the other level, like it was my special little guys that he was doing this to. And it's just like it was just like all around just super upsetting.
Just a quick one on that. What 5-star match have I been like this has passed me by? Has Jack Perry had a match that was 5 stars?
I mean, he's had a lot of matches, like maybe one.
Well, yeah. I mean, the law of averages.
Law of
averages.
He's a good wrestler. Why am I defending Jack Perry? I have been spending this whole year slagging off Jack Perry on All Elite listening.
We can finally agree then, because he's the most boring bloke in the world.
It's called a heel turn, MX.
Oh my god. Remember, Alex, remember when we were recording All Elite Listening and Libby asked us what we thought of heel turn Jack Perry? And we were like, it's the same
Jack Perry. He just has a leather jacket. Yeah, Jack Perry's been tremendous. Like, I don't know, like Jack Perry, whether he's putting on 5-star clinics or not, has been absolutely fucking killing it recently as a character. Like that, I don't know, he's grown into it enough to like do stuff like Cry Me a River into the camera. He's grown a lot, like, and that knowing how to carry himself as a heel and knowing how to get the heel style wrestling down has been really impressive to see. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's my favorite wrestler, but he's absolutely improved immeasurably over the last 6 months.
You've got a Jack Perry shirt in the mail right now, don't you?
I tried to fucking buy one, but they're all terrible. They look like
there's a reason for that, Alex. There's a reason for that.
I will not sit here. I will not sit here and pretend that I have given a single solitary fuck about Jack Perry until that Cry Me a River spot. Like, I'm not going to pretend. Like, that's the thing that got me on him, and it's not right, and it's not proper, and it's not because of anything he's done as a character, and I understand that. But it's gotten me, it's given me some goodwill towards him.
I think
I'm actually curious as to what his highest star rating is.
Fusion said the Super Click versus Cage and Jurassic Express was the 5-star match.
Was that
which
5 stars?
I can't say I remember.
They had a really funny botch in that match, I remember.
To be fair, there's been some wrestlers that have surprising 5-star matches on the Dave Meltzer scale because of being involved in like the multi-man matches.
Yeah.
That NXT ladder match, I know there was like 1 or 2 guys in that technically have Meltzer 5-star matches.
Right.
You do not want to attribute as being a 5-star wrestler.
I think you got one as well, didn't you, Trent?
Me? Of course. I am the 5-star guy on the Ocean Cyclone show, which the new episode has dropped just recently.
I'll set him up, you knock him down.
The alley-oop, got to deliver.
Bump set spike.
Just on like back on CM Punk, that final match he had at All In, maybe that's like the best way he could have gone out, just to like really like we didn't know it was going to be his last match, and it was the nice conclusion to that Samoa Joe story.
It kills me if he wasn't going to do it.
He hit the Pepper's plunge, didn't he, to win?
Awesome.
Is like concluding that story, and maybe that's like maybe we should have known that was. I mean, I was on the train home from Wembley, and I was like, oh, Jack Perry, he's had a fight with Jack Perry. Great. All right. And then like the day after, I was like, all right, this is a bit more serious. He just had a scrap backstage with Jack Perry.
Yeah. I mean, CM Punk definitely knew it was his last match because he was saying goodbye to the fans at the end. I think he knew that was it over because of the amount of people that seen it. But that match was fun. I thought that match was really good. Like,
it was wonderful.
Even like, I don't know, I said it on the recap the other day. Like, Joe getting his flowers in front of 80,000 people was just wonderful to see. And he was working with somebody that knows him really well. And the match was good. Like, you can't say otherwise. It was a really good match, and it was fun watching them like go back with different moments in wrestling history. You know, like CM Punk doing the Hulk Hogan thing, but then it being
Yeah, that was
Samoa
funny.
Joe actually doing the Hulk up thing. It was really good, man. And like CM Punk has always been captivating. It's a shame.
I will say, if he shows up to WWE and throws a real world title in the garbage, that will be the peak of comedy. That will be the funniest thing that has ever happened in wrestling. For so many different reasons. I will laugh myself sick. First of all, if WWE are stupid enough to let him go over there. And second of all, like, it's a fake title anyway. Throwing it in the garbage doesn't mean anything. It was always fake. Sure, why not? He can have the belt. Why not?
Stick it on the mantelpiece, I reckon.
He can hang it up on his wall and remember everything that he accomplished in AEW.
His title reigns have been absolutely fucking cursed, though, haven't they? Even if the imaginary one.
Couldn't have happened to
because he kept trying to do a buckshot lariat, didn't he? And just like breaking different bones.
That's actually something when you were speaking about his match with about how good he is at storytelling. When he botched that buckshot lariat, I thought that was storytelling. He is so good in the ring that I genuinely thought that he was just showing, all right, this is not easy to do someone else's move.
Yeah. It's when he botched it the second time that you knew it wasn't it?
Well, no, even then, I was like, no, he's just putting Paige over, is what I thought. Like, genuinely.
Little did you know.
Little did I know that
he's that good, Alex. You see.
My conspiracy theory is that he broke his foot off the buckshot lariat. He said it was a crowd dive. My personal little conspiracy theory is that it was the buckshot lariat. Because if you look at it, he landed so fucking bad, and he was moving so funky afterwards.
By the way, Connor leaving at the end of the negativity, and we've been very positive since his departure.
I know, we have to call him back. We've been great since.
Oops.
We'll call him back and then just return to the negativity.
Yeah. As soon as I
call him back,
him
and then we'll turn on to the Adam Cole subject, and we'll get him back going again. It's fantastic.
I will defend Adam Cole to the death. Sorry.
To your fairness, point, actually,
as much as I don't like him, I did give it the Bebe thing when he came out at Wembley. I was well up for that, and then he wrestled, and I was not bothered anymore. So.
You gave in to the crowd.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Give in to the moment. You got sucked into his charisma.
Yeah, I didn't do the acclaimed scissor thing with anybody. That was not happening with like random people on the Wembley concourse. They were just walking around.
You didn't do the acclaimed scissor thing?
No, I did not.
The mate I came with. A true wrestling fan if you didn't do the acclaimed scissor thing?
I didn't do it either.
I don't know that you can.
My defense, I just don't want to be touched by other people. So
yeah, I don't know that much unprotected scissoring with random strangers. I'm pretty sure is dangerous.
Yeah. That's why you need to get one of the foam fingers so that you're covered.
Yeah. Safe scissoring only.
There was some guy sat behind me, and every time I sat back down, I sat on his fucking foam scissors because for some reason he kept putting it on my chair.
So because the person in front of me had them, and it just kept getting in my way. So we just like moved down a few seats, so that I'm not just watching a foam finger pop up and down all day. It's hard work.
Yeah.
I'd say, like, I don't know. It was probably the best way for him to go out. A little bit like Zinedine Zidane, wasn't it? 80,000 people booing Phil Brooks rather than CM Punk, wasn't it? Like, people weren't booing him, his character. They were absolutely booing Phil Brooks. And
that's fantastic. That is a great analogy. I like that. I'm going to stick with that. Is the Zidane of football, of wrestling?
Yeah, I can go with that.
Yeah. How did you guys think that this was going to end?
Not like this.
Really?
No,
you didn't think it was going to end like this?
Well, not like now. I didn't think it was going to be Jack Perry just at like in some concourse at Wembley. I thought like there'd be a big blowout and he'd like do something on screen.
There was. He allegedly lunged at Tony Khan.
What I can't believe is like the Daily Mail or the Sun's not got hold of this footage because there's cameras in every inch of that bloody building. and they've not apparently there is footage of it as well. And how has that not been surfaced yet? I don't know, but
they're saving that for next year when they bring Punk back and they do the hype package.
I desperately want to see that.
They're saving it for the Dark Side of the Ring episode.
People's moaning that they managed to get a photograph of Ricky Starks at the Royal Rumble, but nobody's managed to get their hands on the Wembley footage.
It's honestly, it is nice to see the backstage stuff at AEW not leak for once, because that's to me been the biggest issue with all of this. Is every single thing that's happened backstage with AEW, it feels like we've heard about, and that has been part of the issue. Like, it needs to kind of be sorted out behind the scenes and not bringing the fans into the chaos.
It's so funny.
CM Punk.
It's so funny how that started happening in 2021 and then kind of cooled off afterwards.
Oh no, you had the MJF stuff.
Kind of cooled off on at around September.
Yeah, the
for
MJ,
a couple of months.
The
And
MJF
then
stuff was the first example of people getting turned off by the backstage stuff with AEW.
Yeah.
It wasn't
the
purely the
MJF
Punk
stuff
situation.
was pretty big. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, like the MJF stuff just kind of breezed right past me. I have kind of been anti MJF for a long time. So like he does some fucking shit and I'm like, I like have fun. And he was gone for a while and I didn't notice. You know what I mean? So like that one kind of, because like the MJF stuff was just MJF. It didn't involve anybody else. Like it wasn't picking fights with anybody. It wasn't undermining like anybody else's like promos or segments or big moments constantly over the course of months. It was like one incident. It was maybe 2 steps farther than he usually takes his character. And
I mean, he was having a pop at the owner, if that's like what we're saying about CM Punk.
Maybe I've just been so down on TK for such a long time that I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it really hurt the TK impression because it sort of brought into question what he was doing backstage with this talent. And the MJF stuff kind of, I'm not sure it was the first example where you would start to question what TK was doing. I mean, there's been other situations booking wise. And then the CM Punk thing has certainly blown it into a more obvious thing. But that's where I'm I hope they've learnt their lessons from all of this and find a way to manage backstage.
I mean, he's got the management skills with rotting corpse, hasn't he? Like Tony Khan. But I mean, he's got you never know, something like perk him into life. He might start controlling the people. Well, not controlling, but keeping tabs on the people he's employing.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry, go on.
Alex and I have talked about this before, but I lost faith in TK basically at the Big Swole thing.
Yeah.
I was kind of waiting because the thing was, AEW first started and everybody's happy and there's just such a small controlled group of people who all really know each other, and things were going good and everything was good and everything was chill and people were happy. So I was like, okay. And I still had this tension in me where I was like, how he responds to the first real problem is how this guy is going to be as a leader. And for me, that big one was Big Swole.
Yeah, that was a really bad look.
Because say what you will about Big Swole, I really liked her, whatever, but he did not handle that well and he did not handle that professionally.
Yeah.
To me, that was just that was it. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
that was
okay.
really bad. Swole bringing up legitimate criticism, and his response was just petulant. Well, you're not a good wrestler anyway. Come on, man. She's made pretty well substantiated assertions against your company, and you're just no, you're crap.
Yeah, even if you legitimately felt that way, that's not the way to approach it as the leader of a company that is trying to encourage other people to come join. Because if someone has issues with management and leave as a result or are fired as a result, if that's how you're going to be treated publicly, that's not a good look. And AEW was designed to be an alternative and to promote people coming in and doing things. That was a poor step. I just hope with all of this he's learning.
And it was a really big topic of discussion at the time. Like Fightful had a fucking tremendous stream about the issues with representation in AEW, with I think it was Will Washington at the time, following the Swole debacle, and he didn't listen. He gets really defensive. You've seen it in like I was part of a media scrum when somebody asked him why there were so few women on the card, and like he reacted so ferociously that he had to issue a public apology. He can't take criticism, and he's functionally incapable of leading. But I guess the hope for this is that he is not going to allow somebody to get that close again, because he allowed a talent who has problems with everyone who looks at him the wrong way to control a brand, to the point where he banned the head of talent relations from the fucking building, and he let him do it as well.
Like, don't forget about Ryan Nemeth. That was the major crime, stopping Ryan Nemeth to into collision.
I mean, unironically,
less successful
because
than brother.
How you treat somebody who you have all of the power over is really indicative of like who you are as a person and how you treat people. So like, unironically, the real crime was him bullying somebody who had no power and no leverage, and it was messed up. And I don't think, like, for all of the carny roots of wrestling, like, I don't think that we should accept that it is okay for quote unquote big stars to bully people. And that was
everything that he hated about WWE, like JBL bullying everyone that has no power back in the WWE locker room. Like,
funny, it was just a couple of days ago we saw pictures of him smiling with JBL and Farouk.
Yeah, just you know that they were just sitting speaking there, like going, "Fucking youth today, like they don't know how good they've got it."
Punk's like, I understand now why you were bullying all these people. I understand.
Now that it's my turn to bully people, I really get why you were doing it all these years. And it's messed up that people don't want me to bully people now that it's my turn.
Yeah, I think the circle of screaming must never end.
Yeah, I think it's that saying, it was that you live so long, you become the thing you hate. I mean, that's sort of like what he's managed to do during this time in AEW. He's managed to become the figure, that the old figure in the locker room.
It certainly hurt the impression that WWE was not his fault. Because when he left WWE, a lot of people were on his side and felt that he got screwed by WWE. And that might still be true to a certain extent. But the AEW stuff has certainly hurt those claims. And I think people look at him at a different light in WWE now. People going back on the Triple H promos and scouring and going, "Oh, Triple H said this." That was pointed now, like 7, 8, 10 years later.
Aged like a fine wine.
It's added some nuance to that situation, right? Because like I'm still 100% willing to believe that CM Punk went through some profound bullshit in WWE. Like I'm 100% willing to believe that, but it definitely, you know, it definitely adds some layers of nuance. Like, can WWE be like have been a really abusive, messed up organization within a really abusive culture? Yes. Was CM Punk just kind of a really combative, really egotistical element of that culture? I mean, you know, I just it's really interesting to me to have looked at his behavior over the past year and to have looked at his behavior over time. I don't know.
I think it's just a shame. He rallied against the old school culture, that definitely affected his career in WWE. And then when he was given the chance to be in a position of power where he could foster the right environment, he just became like another "that doesn't work for me, brother" kind of guy.
It really calls into question like his convictions, right? Because he said all of this stuff and he built his name on all of this stuff. Like, you know, he's Punk, right? And like he built his name off of being Punk. He built his name off of bucking the system. And I think there are a lot of people who are in wrestling now who really took those words to heart and took those words and built something out of it. Like, was like, yeah, it's not right that these people are bullies. It's not right, this kind of culture. Let's build something better. Like, I think there are people right now who are inspired by the things that Punk said and who built something out of it. And he can't exist in that culture, apparently. He refused to try.
I hope though, like, I mean, he deserves to be remembered for everything that he is and was in the industry, and that includes everything negative that you say. But he was an influential figure to the point, as you said, you know, there are, and we know there are wrestlers just now that are active and making them.
Oh, Alex,
wrestlers.
you're doing that thing again. You gotta do
better?
the thing. Yeah, for now.
She's your kryptonite, mate.
No, there are people making millions in the industry because he inspired them to become a wrestler. And as much as I have enjoyed taking the piss out of CM Punk on Twitter, I hope that we do also remember the good things that he did in wrestling as well, because it hasn't all been bad.
What he and Danielson did to help the smaller wrestlers get that big screen opportunity, like, you know, before he and Danielson sort of came through that WWE system, it still felt very much like you have to be this muscular to get on any kind of airtime. Now that bond has been broken, not just across the world, but in WWE specifically. Now Danielson's probably going to get a bit more credit for that, and maybe fair, maybe not. He certainly sort of took what Punk did and took it to the next level with the WrestleMania stuff that he did. But you can't talk about that without mentioning Punk.
And I mean, people like Adam Cole would not be as popular without CM Punk. So there's your silver lining, Jamie.
Exactly what I wanted to hear. No, I mean, especially with CM Punk, it's sort of like, the wrestling wouldn't be what it is today without CM Punk in that, and I think he's been that influential in, like, throughout his career, and even in his time in AEW, it wouldn't be as far along in its growth without CM Punk going in. And there's obviously a lot of bad things that he's come out in sort of like the last year or so, but the amount of good he's done throughout his career should never be sort of like forgotten and left to the wayside.
Yeah, I think, I think his legacy is both. His legacy is, the very real ways that he inspired fans and wrestlers alike. There are a lot of people in this business today that are in this business because of CM Punk. You know what I mean? But like, also, the bad stuff, also the damage, also the toxicity. Those are all part of the story. And I think ultimately, what I would wish for him going forward is to be able to be a functioning and self-actualized person away from wrestling, because I think it's pretty clear that wrestling's a bad trigger for him. It's like I honestly believe that, like, this is just like an individual who went through, some really bad stuff and got triggered really badly by being in this space and like being the target of this attention and all of this stuff. And I hope that he's able to go home and take several steps back and be a little bit removed from public life and reconnect with his own satisfaction and his own happiness. Away from us.
Whatever he does, hopefully he is healthy and like happy, because everyone deserves that.
Everyone deserves that. I truly believe that.
Even Adam Cole.
Even Adam Cole.
Some
On
would
that
even say,
note-
especially Adam Cole.
Should have said Jack
No,
Perry.
not especially Adam Cole. Not especially Adam Cole. But Adam Cole could come too.
Oh, Jack Perry, especially Jack Perry.
I wish all the best for Jack Perry. I hope he doesn't get fired. That would be a shame. But then maybe I'd see him on the Indies, so that would be pretty good too.
And then you could talk about him on the Indies.
Nice.
And I could talk about him on the Indies. I hope he doesn't become a podcaster. That is my biggest wish for all wrestlers everywhere for all of time, that they don't become a podcaster.
Yeah. FTR feeling personally attacked right now.
And they should be. And they should. They truly should.
So I guess that's probably about the best place to wrap it up. I guess get our plugs in.
You've not got many plugs in, Trent, so I'll let you do yours.
I still got plenty of. I got a lot of plugs in my house. I've got so many drains that need plugging up. So just let me know when you want me to go wild.
On you go then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've just recently released, in terms of podcasts, if you like hearing this voice and aren't sick of it after an hour and a half of me talking, yes, Colin and I will be watching the Stardom pay-per-view. I am ready to spend way too much money once again. I've got to see Julia versus Risa Sera live. That's too exciting. Speaking of Joshi, you can catch my podcast, Ocean Cyclone Show, on the Wrestling Network. You can also catch ChocoCast if you want a little bit of a lighter podcast where we talk about Choco Pro and Gato Move. Recently had an article drop on Wrestling about Unagi Sayaka, so check that out. And if you want history of Stardom, Scott Edwards and I do a bi-weekly, fortnightly episode of Stardom Road, and the next one will be coming out this week coming.
Fantastic. I've gotten my plugs aren't as exciting. Colin did mention there the Edmond Victory final. I'll be watching that tomorrow, and at the end of September, you'll hear me talk about that on Pure Vision with Ben and Kay. Our last episode came out last weekend, actually. We talked about everything from August in the Japanese men's wrestling, all the amazing tournaments that happened over the month. If you think I was a bit down today, I mean, you wait till you listen to that. I just slagged off every company apart from All Japan. It was great. So you can listen to that if you want to hear a little bit more. Follow me on Twitter at jjohnson_16. All my writing and everything else goes up on there. So yeah, thank you for having me.
And as I have mentioned several times before, I have a podcast that I do with my co-host Adam, where we talk about North American independent wrestling. And we're much more positive on that show. We definitely, our goal is to, hold up and shine a light on things that we love in wrestling rather than just slagging off things that we hate. And to that point, I will be going back and watching Effie's Big Gay Brunch, which happened earlier today. I'm very excited for it. I'm actually wearing an Effie shirt right now. Neither CM Punk nor Young Bucks. It's all Effie today. But yes, and you can follow me on Twitter at FakeSportFeel. I try not to be quite so salty as I have been the past 2 weeks on Twitter. And I'm also on Blue Sky with the same handle if you aren't sick of me yet.
And yeah, you can follow me Alex_M197 on Twitter. And you can hear me speak more about CM Punk probably next week on All Elite Listening. But yeah, thanks for joining everyone today and commenting. And sorry, Connor, for your misery.
Sorry, Connor. If you ever watch this back, I'm truly sorry. I don't want to make you feel bad. I am sorry about that.
He needs to watch back from where we left because we got quite positive after that.
So. We did get a little positive.
Someone would have to tell him to watch.
I know. I feel like a right bastard now. He's so
we're
so nice
about
everything that we do, and just drove him away.
Well, we're saying, we're super positive after he left and stuff. In actuality, we just want him to watch it all over again on demand, so we get that extra view.
Great, yeah.
That's
big.
Yeah,
he's going to go through
all
like all hour and a half. Go, they didn't say anything nice. They lied to me.
Next time we do a live stream, I'm going to be extra nice to Connor as penance. Is what I'm going to do. I'm sorry, Connor. Thank you for being a part of our community and always participating in our streams. I really do appreciate it.
Definitely.
And if you would like to join our community, we have the Discord link on our Twitter page. Is that the right thing to say there, Fuser? Yeah. Bye.
See ya.
Cheers.
Bye.